Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Safest Family on the Block, where knowledge is power. I'm your host, Jason, and joining me today is Mr. Bill Damewood. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
So far, so good. Now, Bill and I know each other through martial arts circles, but he's on the show today in his capacity as a firefighter, and that's a career you've had for quite a while. So let's start with just tell us a little bit about your experience in that career.
Well, I actually started initially as a paramedic with the EMS service here in my county. I worked 4 years with EMS and then switched over to fire in 2000. So I've been doing it for 22 years now.
Wow. And that's 22 years of Christmases
Yes.
as a firefighter. And that's what we wanted to talk about today. I don't know when everybody's watching this, but we're recording it the week before Christmas. And it's my understanding from the firefighters I know that the Christmas holidays bring with them several fire risks that ruin people's holidays and ruin people's lives every year. So I was hoping to have you come on and talk about what are those risks, how we can mitigate those as much in our houses while still enjoying those holiday traditions.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the major things is we talk about fire load. That's a term in the industry that describes the contents of the house, the things that catch fire, the furniture, the books, the chairs, the carpet, the curtains. That's a normal fire load. If you're bringing a Christmas tree into the house, a real tree, you're increasing your fire load right away. Obviously, you should try to keep it watered. The fresher and the more water you can get to it, the better it is, but it's still going to dry out. And once it dries out, it is very flammable. I don't know if you've ever tried to light up a evergreen branch, but they go up rather quickly.
Well, all I remember on that is from my wilderness survival classes out here in the Pacific Northwest, I know that pine needles make excellent tinder.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. So just right off the bat, you're increasing your fire load with a natural tree. Now, on top of that, you put lights on it. So you've got to make sure that your lights are all in good condition. You need, they advise, I checked on the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Agency. They advise not to use extension cords. Everybody does. The other issue is don't leave the lights on either when you're not home or when you go to bed. If you're in bed sleeping, why do you need the tree on anyway? But that is one of the major causes are electrical shorts that catch the tree and then the tree lights up. The other issue is candles. Some people like to light candles for the holiday season. Keep it away from the tree. The NFPA.
Can you believe we used to put actual candles in actual trees as a traditional decoration?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So nowadays with the LED lights, it's better. But you know, those old-fashioned lights where one bulb goes bad and the whole string is gone, you've got to check each bulb. People have gotten away with that with the new technology, but there's still electric current flowing. And next to, if you have a real tree, a dried out branch. The other issue is, have you checked your fire extinguishers? They go bad. They have expiration dates. All of that extinguisher powder settles into the bottom of the extinguisher. So they have certain dates that they need to be kept new. And so have an extinguisher close to the tree. Have one in your kitchen.
One thing we do here at our house, and I don't remember where I heard this advice, but we've been doing it for several years, and longtime viewers will have heard this before. But we get the little $20 Home Depot ones that are probably good for a year or two. And every year in the summer, just before the 4th of July, we build a little campfire on the back patio, and everybody uses the old extinguisher to put out those fires, and then we rotate in the new ones so that everybody's rated and trains and practices with those.
Well, and that's the other thing I would advise is if you have never used a fire extinguisher, reach out to your local fire department. They have classes. Back in the day, we actually used to use gasoline and diesel in a bin and light it on fire and actually have you put the fire out. EPA put a stop to that, but we have a propane ignited flame that you can extinguish with a fire extinguisher. So it gets you actual heat, actual flame, and you actually get to use the extinguisher and train with it. I mean, it's a perishable skill, just like training with a firearm, just like doing our martial arts training. It needs to be renewed, if not once a year, at least once every couple of years.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is be reading the instructions while the Christmas tree is caught fire.
Correct.
You're waiting for the YouTube video to load up and show you an ad for the new car of the season.
Right. The other issue with the trees is placement. If you have the tree right next to your exit, you're going to have a hard time getting out if it does indeed catch on fire. My go-to response before researching this a little bit was get a artificial tree. Those, however, they are treated with flame retardant. However, that wears out, and they advise replacing even the artificial trees at least every 6 years, which I had not heard of that before. But you could, I don't advise doing this in the house, take a piece of your artificial tree outside and do a direct flame test where you hold a lighter to the material and see if it catches up immediately, and just do your own flame test. That's kind of what they do when they're applying the retardant. They have to pass a flame test where it will not catch if you hold flame to it, at least not immediately. Obviously, if you keep the flame there, it will eventually light up. But
so if we did that every couple of years on an artificial tree, that would be a good way of finding out if it's time to order a replacement.
Right, correct. And of course, also the tinsel and all of that stuff. If you've had the same stuff for 10, 15 years, maybe it's time to buy some new stuff, because all of that should have been treated initially, but the flame retardant will wear off, especially packing it up and unpacking it, and all the friction and rubbing of the material can remove the flame retardant.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's news to me too about artificial trees. So that's good information.
I did a little bit of research on the NFPA on 160 fires annually are suspected from Christmas trees. So out of all of the hot house fires in December, 160 of them are contributed to Christmas trees. And once again, that just goes back to best practices. Keep open flame away from the tree. Turn your lights off if you're not home. Turn them off when you go to bed. The other big thing is close your bedroom door. It provides at least 30 minutes of protection if there is a fire in the house. You know, as a child, I always had my door open, but they really advise now that you close the bedroom doors at night, and it just an added minutes of protection from a fire.
I'll see if I can find some links to, I've seen a couple of very dramatic videos where a firefighter has walked through a room that was devastated by fire and then opened a bedroom door, and it's like it never happened.
Right.
It's fairly dramatic.
Yes. And the other problem with shows like Chicago Fire and the other ones out there, that they give the impression that only being touched by actual flame is how you die in a fire, and most people do not even get touched by the actual flame itself. It's the poisonous gases in the smoke that overcome you, and you pass out, and then you actually suffocate from the poisonous gases in the smoke, and not the actual flame itself.
Yeah, I was reading recently, I can't remember the exact numbers, but that Even 30, 40 years ago, when most house furniture was made of pine, cherry, and oak or whatever, it was a danger, but it's much, much worse now because of how much of our homes are full of IKEA sawdust and some horrible glue.
Right.
And the fumes are much more toxic in the most modern homes.
Much more toxic and much more flammable. Back in the day, we had several minutes to respond to a fire before the entire place was full. Nowadays, with all of the flammable materials and plastics and glues and things like that, they burn faster, they burn hotter, and they produce a lot more toxic gases. Your hydrogen cyanide, carbon monoxide, just altogether bad things.
And so while we're practicing our fire drill, which we all should, and we should probably re-up during the holidays, remembering to stay low, to, if you have to take a minute, blocking, putting some clothes or a towel under the door, all those little things can help.
Little things that also have more than one way out. If the Christmas tree is right by the front door and it's fully involved and catching the ceiling on fire, be able to go out a window. And plan that ahead of time. Don't plan that once everything has gone bad, because now you're not thinking straight and you can panic. So have alternate ways of getting out of the house. Drill on those. Like you said, practice it. Make it something fun for the kids, but get them in the idea of, this is how I get out of the house if it catches on fire. And stay low. The lower you can get crawling through the house, you should be able to get out of the house relatively quickly.
And if you have a second story, third story windows in the bedrooms, fire ladders.
Fire ladders. They make them now, collapsible ladders. You can drop them right out the window and easily get out. Back in my day, I may have had to climb out onto the roof and jump on a tree, but we've come a long way. These are things that are easily found. If you don't order online, you can go to Home Depot and find, a collapsible fire ladder that's just a rope ladder you hook onto the windowsill and climb down. But once again, don't wait until the house is on fire to try this. Be careful when you try this. But I would say try it out before you actually have to use it in an emergency.
Again, reading the instruction manual is not what you want to be doing in the moment.
Correct.
I'll tell a story on myself. When we were installing the fire extinguishers in the house, my youngest was a baby, and so I put the fire extinguisher in the hall between our bedroom and his bedroom, because I'd have to go get him. And then I realized, well, if the hall between us is on fire, how am I getting to the fire extinguisher?
Right.
So now it lives in the master bedroom suite with us, although he's old enough to navigate out on his own. But that's another benefit of drilling those things. About if you buy the fire ladder and it turns out that it'll work on one windowsill in the bedroom, but the other one it won't because of whatever structural factor is there, that's, again, a really bad thing to find out when the fire is happening.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, coming up with a family plan and reviewing the plan and actually doing a dry run. Try the plan out and see if you can escape the house from an alternate route as well as through the front door. And we always advise, if something catches on fire, you can use the extinguisher to try and get out, but get out of the house. Get everyone out of the house and let the fire department try and put the fire out if you were not able to, as you were going by, to extinguish it. Don't stay in and try and fight the fire. The gases can overcome you within seconds. If it's hydrogen cyanide mixed with carbon monoxide, you're going to be unconscious within 30 seconds, depending on the amount of gases in the room. If it's a confined room, it doesn't take long at all to become overcome by the gases and be unconscious.
Yeah. An earlier fireman on the show was talking more, general fire safety, was saying any fire larger than a volleyball is beyond a civilian and amateur's ability to fight. At that point, it's time to get out and use the fire extinguisher to clear a path.
Right. That would be very good advice. Yes.
So we've talked about having those plans in place before we do the holidays, and it's especially important in the holidays because there are a lot of people go to bed a little more tipsy during the holidays than they do usually. So again, when you're panicked and still a little drunk is not the time to be making up your fire plan.
Right.
And we've talked about Christmas trees. Also, I've heard that the electrical load from large light displays can also be an issue.
Back in the day, yes. Nowadays, with more of the LED lights, that's not a problem. But you still have, the lights you've had for 20 years are going to put an extra load. And if you've already got your TV, well, nobody even has a DVD player anymore, but all of the things plugged into your outlet or your power strip, adding work to that can cause an issue.
In addition, I imagine that because you will be using extension cords and daisy chaining those if you're doing anything major, making sure those connections are solid, maybe even taking some electrical tape to keep them secure is probably worth some prevention.
That and how are you hanging the lights? Back in the day, we would staple them. Hopefully you didn't run the staple through the wire, but it's how, they have much better ways of hanging the lights and much more user-friendly operations now than back in the day, but there's still, the old hardhead who, this is the way we've always done it, take the staple gun, and it goes right through the wire, causes a short. You don't notice it right away, and then it overheats, and that can be your source for a fire.
So all of those things, and yeah, you can look up all kinds of YouTube videos about safe ways to hang your lights now. And it just takes a matter of looking them up and following the advice.
Right.
Now, I do feel like any discussion of holiday fires will not be complete without talking about people trying to deep fry turkeys. This is an internet thing that I've seen. How often do people actually do that, and how often does that lead to major catastrophe?
It happens several times at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. The issue is with a frozen turkey. It has to be thawed out when you drop it into the deep fryer. The other issue I would say is don't use the deep fryer inside. Take it outside. Don't have it. And a lot of people also, they'll take it out to the porch. Well, that has a roof on it. So you're still technically undercover, and that flame can get up into your roof and then catch your house on fire. The main point is make sure your turkey is thawed. It has to be, if it's frozen, the outside might be thawed out, but the inside is still ice, and you drop it in that oil, it's going to react violently. We actually did it at the fire department a few years ago at Thanksgiving. We did it for the local news. They got us a frozen turkey. We had a deep fryer and dropped it in, and flame everywhere. It looks like
I mean, the science behind it, as I understand it, is between the moisture and the temperature differential, the boiling oil aerosolizes, turns into a vapor, which then makes contact with the flame and explodes. It is essentially a miniature fuel air explosive, which is outlawed by the Geneva Convention.
Right.
And we're doing that in our garage at Christmas.
Well, if you also think of, you always hear about the oil fires on the stove and don't put water on it. So if you've got a big chunk of ice, when that melts immediately, it becomes water. Oil and water do not mix. So then you have the big explosion like you said.
Yeah. And so if people would do that sensibly outside with a well-thawed turkey as dry as possible before putting it in there, that would save you guys save you guys some trouble every season and save some poor sap a really bad experience in the burn unit.
Right. Absolutely.
So those are the holiday things that I'm aware of. The Christmas trees, electrical issues, and deep fried turkeys.
Mhm.
Other than alcohol, are there any major ones that I'm missing?
Not that I can think of. That's
Okay.
that's mainly the most problems.
Mhm.
Just be sensible about what you're
Mhm.
doing. If you're
Mhm.
bringing extra fire load into the house, have an extinguisher. Don't run the lights at night when you're going to
Mhm.
bed. Close your bedroom door, and change the battery on your smoke detectors. We used to do it with every year when you change the clocks, change your smoke alarm batteries. A lot of people have gotten out of practice of that.
Mhm. But making it part of your systems,
Right.
maybe even you know, if you're the kind of family that's got a checklist that includes, get the bin down from the attic, change out the regular dishes for the Christmas dishes, whatever it is, changing it, putting that right on there, putting the 9-volt battery on the Christmas list and putting it in as soon as Amazon drops it off. Creating systems and using those systems can, I think, solve a lot of these issues. Making sure that you got a reminder on your phone every other day to water the Christmas tree.
Right.
um, Making turning off the lights for the Christmas tree in the house part of your getting the house battened down for bed routine.
Hmm.
Having shutting the bedroom door becoming part of your toddler's bedtime ritual. All those little things, systematizing those things, making them automatic, I think could make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yes. And just be mindful, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just that awareness. So, Mr. Damewood, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This is really useful information. I know that you deal with the yucky end of that stick on a daily basis during the holidays, and so I'm hoping our viewers will take that information and save you and your colleagues some hassle and some heartache in the coming months and coming years.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
This
Ab-
this
absolutely. Thank you again, and happy holidays to you and yours.
All right. You too. Happy
Take care.
holidays.